Perfect. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks everybody for joining us on our webinar about our two features, rename and areas. Andrew, actually, it looks like I can't share my screen. Could you give me the ability to do that?
Oh, yeah. I like having all the power for myself. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, now you should be good.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, perfect. So I'm going to start off with areas. Areas is a feature that we developed mostly to add it to the distill group name template options. So if you haven't already checked out that within the settings of Sherlock, the distill group name template is fully customizable with a few kind of special tags that you can add so that you can kind of change the way that your groups are named when they're created by Distill. So you've got the standard stuff, the number of the number of that group, the level, the selections involved, test name, your month and day, grid at intersection. Those are all standard, Navisworks pieces of information. And then you also now have the ability to add the area to the distill group name template. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So before you had set up your areas, you would add this area tag to your distill group name template. So I'm going to save that up. And now you're ready to create areas within your model. So when you click on it, it will put you into a plan view and give you the ability to kind of ad hoc just draw in whatever areas that you want. So one of the use cases that we had when we were developing this was just the ability for you to define phases of coordination within a model. So so I just drew an area there. I'm going to call this one phase 1 as that kind of example. So say we're coordinating this area first because this is the mechanical room or what have you, and we want to kind of work our way out away from there. So I'm able to just kind of draw in wherever I want these different kind of areas I want. You can turn on grid lines and things like that if you want to use those as guides, but you can just start clicking away and drawing in your areas. So I'm just going to draw in one more here, call that phase 2. And then I'm going to go and just kind of put myself into a 3D view here. So you can see when you are in a 3D view within areas, you can see where that area is going to apply to. So one of the things that you chose when you created the area was the level from and level to for where that area is applied to. So in this phase 2 area, it is going from this 0, 0 lower level that's a part of the grids, and then it's going to the highest bound, which just means the highest part of your model. So essentially, it's being applied to the majority of the model here. But if you wanted to define areas differently for different levels of your model, this is how you would do it. So you are able to kind of change where these things are applied to. So if I chose, for instance, level 3 rec main level for this, when I hit update, you'll see that it shrinks that area box down to only be applied to level 0 through that level 3. And the way that I'm editing these things is just by clicking on edit so that it's highlighted and then clicking on that area. That'll bring up the ability for you to change the name of the area and to change the level from and level to, or delete the area if you no longer need it. Okay, and then the last thing about areas when you're in this view is this filter. We will probably change the interface of this a little bit because we are getting a few questions about it, but what that filter does is it just shows you the areas that apply to that filter level. So if I had drawn an area that, let's see here, actually, I will edit this so that this area is going to apply from level 1 to level 3 now. So when I do that, you can see that it disappears. So the reason it disappears is because the filter level is on to only show me the areas that apply to level 0, lower level, which now the phase 2 area that I had drawn no longer does. So if I change this to say level 2, you'll see that it comes back, and that's because that phase 2 area, it applies to the level 2 because it's going from level 1 to level 3. The same thing is true of this phase 1 area. It applies from level 0 all the way up to the top of the model, so it's also shown. So that filter level is really just so that you don't see, if you do end up defining areas per level, because they're different on different levels, then you wouldn't just see all of them all at once on top of each other, because that would be very confusing, especially when you're in the plan view, to just see them all on top of each other. So that's what this filter level is doing, is it's filtering out all the areas that don't apply to the level that you've chosen here. So I'm going to just change this one back, say the lowest bound to highest bound, so it applies everywhere. And then I'm going to exit out of my areas. So now that I have the areas set up and I've added it to the distill group name template, then whenever I use distill, which I'm just going to regroup this so that I'll do that. Whenever you use distill, let's go and check out what it did. So any of the, you can see now that the naming convention is now the area that group was in, and then group, and then the number. And that's just based off of that distill group name template that we had set up. So you could do this however you would want. I put it in the front, mostly so that I can sort by name, and have it sort essentially by area. So now you can see all of these ones. The majority of my clashes were in phase 2, but then there are these 4 at the end that were in phase 1. So that takes me through areas. So really, the reason you set up those areas is so that you can get that area information into the name of the group. One of the questions we get a lot is, you've set up areas, you've added to your distill group name template, but you already have you've already used distill, so you already have groups that are named already, but they don't have the area information in them. That's actually part of the reason why we created rename. So with rename, you can highlight as many clashes as you want within a test and click on rename. And it lets you add prefixes or suffixes to the existing clash names. So say you have been using distill on a model for a while, and now you want to add some area information. Well, with that, and you don't want to redistill your model or blow up all the groups and then regroup it. Well, you can just create those areas the way that I did. You can highlight those, select all those clashes, and then click on rename. And what that lets you do is kind of add that area information right into here. So if I click on area, you can see that now I am going to rename this to area space existing clash name. So you can see that on the right-hand column, which is the updated name column, you can see that area information and what it's going to rename. Group 63 is going to get renamed to phase 1 group 63 because it's identified that that group is in that area. And you can see a couple of these, they fall outside of the areas that we created. So it's not going to do anything to them because those group 72 and 71 are not in any of the areas that we've defined. So if I just hit rename real quick, it's going to go through and it's just going to rename those things for me. So now I can do the same thing. I can sort by name, and there they are. So, the other example is maybe you thought of a new area that you wanted to define, or you wanted to have information about. So you added it via the floor plan view here. So I can, maybe I decided that, we don't want this phase 1 anymore. Really, I just want the clashes around this riser section is what I'm really interested in. So if I do that, I can call that, risers, close out of here, and then right from rename again. So if I went in here and let's go back into here, go back into sheet metal versus mech pipe. Let me hit rename again. And what I can do is, I've already got, some of the area information in here, but, we don't even need to do that, or we don't even need to have it. So we can delete the existing class name too. We can add the area, and we can add the word group, and we can add the number back in. So now it's going to rename. So this one no longer would have phase 1. It would now be called risers because that's in that risers area. And then I could hit rename. Otherwise, if I was to just leave this existing class name, you can see that what it's going to do is this one was called phase 1 group 64. And now it's called risers phase 1 group 64 because it's using the full existing name. So if I did that, and there we go. So now I've got these 3 clashes that are in that risers area. Those are just kind of 2 of the examples that, we have for where or why you would set up areas, but really you could set them up to be, where any area of interest that you want to have that information right into your group names. And then the other thing that we created rename for is so that you could bulk edit some of these names. So some coordinators work in a way where they like to add trade's name right into the clash group name based on like who's going to fix the problem. So if I've got 4 clashes that are all the same person that's going to fix them, I can click rename really quickly and say Chad's going to fix those things. So I can just type in whatever I want right into the rename, and it's going to prefix all of those groups all at once, which is something that if you do work that way, it took a long time for you to be able to prefix something into a name because you would always have to right click, click rename, add that information, and keep moving forward. Another one of the things that that people will use this for is for say there's some clashes with light fixtures, and they just like to note in the clash name that those are lights. So some coordinators will select all the clashes with lights. I'm just going to select random ones. These ones don't have lights. But I can do that now. So I can add it as a suffix wherever if I want, on the end of the name, or I can add it at the beginning of the name, or both. Don't know why you would, but you can do it both ways. And you can apply them there. And then one more reason that we've added rename is it's now able to, if you do use assignments, so if you use assignments and say like Nick is going to work on this, if you use assignments but you also like to publish these groups into saved viewpoints for somebody that may not be using manage to review these clashes, they have no idea that group 8 is assigned to Nick. So if I was to go through and assign a few of these things, so I'm just going to assign a couple of these to myself. And then if I select all of the clashes, hit rename, and then I can just add the assignment right in there. So I can work the same way that I typically would, where I use the assignments feature of Navisworks, but then I want to get that assignment information into my clashes. I can do that by adding the assignment tag right from rename. So if I do that, you can see that it's now added anything that was in that assignment into those group names as well. So it's really, both of these features are pretty flexible on how you use them. We kind of left them that way so that you can kind of think of your own ways that you may want to use it, or if there's how it fits into your workflow. That pretty much takes me through the demo. Andrew, is there any questions?
Yeah, we did get one. So there's a question about areas. So they're curious if if you can have more fine control over how you create an area, I believe. Like if you can define like specific XYZ access points, or and then define the area after that, or if there's only the freeform option, or if you can like very specifically dial in where you want the box or the area to be.
Yeah, right. So the as of right now, it is just the freeform option, where you can turn on grids and you can kind of follow the grid lines and click on the grid intersection points and things like that if you want to be able to do that. But in the future, we do plan on making it so that you can, if the XYZ coordinates of where you want something to apply to, then we're going to add that so that you're able to define them more accurately. The other things that we're going to probably add as well, and this isn't specifically about areas, but it's more or less about the distill group name template, is adding a tag here for room names, as well as a way for you to just if you in a modeling software created some bounding boxes that you just wanted to use on that. Because you wanted to use that modeling software to really dial in exactly where all those bounding boxes are. We're probably going to also support that as well, so that we can take the names of those bounding boxes and throw them into your distill group name template as well.
Perfect. Okay. Anyone else have any questions about any other things you'd like to see in that you'd like to be able to add to your rename templates easier? Anything you want to add to any of the other features you had here, or just any general clarifying questions that anyone got? You can either put up your hand or put it in the chat.
Can I create a section box using the areas I've created for view purposes? That is that's a very interesting question. No, you can't currently, but that feature does kind of dovetail into our our other newer feature, that isolate feature that we did a webinar on a couple weeks ago, which is all about section boxes and creating views from those section boxes. So we'll write that down as something that we might do in the future.
Yeah, that could definitely come right in handy. Awesome. Anyone else? Any other questions hanging around out there?
Well,
Looks like we gotten there.
Yeah, and we also do. I'll plug our webinar that we have next week. Next week is just a webinar to discuss future roadmap of Sherlock. So if you've got things that we're not doing currently, or there's improvements that wish that we would do, please join that webinar. It's just going to be an open discussion with everybody for us to more better align with how you use Sherlock and how we might be able to make it better.
Exactly. Yeah, and I just dropped a link to the sign up page for that discussion. If any of you guys are interested, you probably should have already gotten an email about it. And if you did, that's the same discussion. So it's just exactly what Nick said. We're gonna get some feedback, see what we can make to make Sherlock better. So yeah, if you would like to sign up, feel free to click that link, fill out your info, and join us on the 29th, 27th. 2 days from now. 29th, yeah. Okay, well, I believe we've gotten through everyone's questions. I think we can wrap it up.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. And yeah, if you have the time, please join us for that feature discussion. Thanks, everybody.